welcome back to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 363, and today's topic is Mental Health 3. Today let's talk about psychotherapy. Now, in our previous lesson, we talked about taking medication or being on drugs, right, to help us. I guess, especially when we're struggling anxiety and stress. But pills and drugs aren't exactly the answer, as we mentioned in our previous lesson. You can, of course, kind of get in tune with nature. Try to do that. There are many different kinds of methods and means we can take. You can also seek professional help, which means to get professional help. You can go to a mental therapist, counselor, talk about your problems, and then you may be able to feel that you are cured, for instance. So let's talk about psychotherapy today. Let's begin with actual talk.
When I was teaching in Korea, I noticed a big difference between the stigma of mental health and therapy or even ADD medication here compared to America. I feel like a lot of children in America are seeing therapists or some sort of counselors. Divorce rate is much higher in America.
Yeah.
So the family structure kind of falling apart can create a need for therapy. Have you ever been to therapy?
I haven't ever been. And I think in the UK it's something that's frowned upon a lot more than it is in the US. Whether watching TV shows and movies growing up, it was kind of an in-joke in the UK that everyone in the US has a therapist.
My therapist says.
Exactly that, yeah. I think it's certainly warranted right, in situations that call out for it.
Yeah.
I mean, my belief is that too many people go for no real need, but I think if there's a situation
it's quite expensive. So that can be a determining factor in whether someone has access to it or not. I saw a therapist for a little while when my parents got divorced.
Okay.
And I'm really happy that I did. It was really helpful for me. It was when I was about 14, 15, and 16.
Wow.
So it was kind of a crucial developmental stage.
Definitely, yeah.
And my parents were dealing with their own divorce. So I was happy that I had someone outside kind of giving me some guidance on how to build a healthy life, how to deal with things in a healthy way.
Yeah, that's really important. As you said, you're a really critical period in your life at 14, 15, trying to be comfortable with yourself. It was a lot different for me, actually. My parents got divorced when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
So I didn't really have that juxtaposition between how do I feel and what's going on. So I didn't really need it at that younger age. But I think certainly in your teens, it's something that is a real help.
Right.
Especially over medication.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. Did you enjoy the conversation? Today we had Mary and Martin again talking about psychotherapy. We had a chance to listen to what they thought. We had a chance to listen in on their opinions, right? So let's take a look at the conversation together. Here we go. Mary began by saying, when I was teaching in Korea, I noticed a big difference between the stigma of mental health and therapy, and even ADD medication, here compared to America. So she is making a comparison, in Korea and in America. She's talking about the differences between many things, especially the stigma of mental health, the stigma of therapy, and even ADD medication. What is stigma, though? We went over stigma a while ago. If you say that there is a stigma, or here, we can see the difference between the stigma of something. We're saying that stigma, something is kind of disapproved, It's a no-no. It's considered to be bad. So she's saying that she noticed a big difference between what Koreans think and what Americans think. Between what? Stigma of mental health, therapy, and even ADD medication. So all of these things, therapy and even ADD medication. Okay. Now, I did try to give you an example of an alternative, okay? You can also kind of structure the same sentence slightly differently. You can say, when I was teaching in Korea, I noticed a big difference in the stigma attached to mental health therapy and ADD medication between here, meaning Korea, and in America. Okay? Now, we're not saying that what Mary said was wrong. This is just another way of putting the sentence if it's a bit tricky or difficult for you to understand the first one. Okay? This is just to help you understand what Mary has just previously said. All right, moving on. She says, I feel like a lot of children in America are seeing therapists or some sort of counselors. So we can go to a therapist to get some advice. We can go to counselors to get some advice. Usually if we're having psychological or social problems, we can talk to a professional to get help or advice. So she's saying in America, a lot of children, yes, go to see therapists or even counselors. Now, why? The divorce rate is much higher in America. So the focus is what? The divorce rate is higher in America. Maybe that's one of the reasons why children seek help. So the family structure that is kind of falling apart, it's not stable, it's falling apart, okay, can create a need for therapy. So this family structure that's not so stable, it's falling apart, can create a need for therapy. Okay, so once again, she's saying that in America, the reason why many children go to get therapy or go for counseling is mainly because the divorce rate is high in America. So, yeah, they do have a lot of problems, psychological problems, and they need help. They need somebody to talk to. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of kids in America get help. And then she asks, have you ever been to therapy? Okay, have you ever been to therapy? I haven't been. He says, I have not been to therapy. I think in the UK, here we go, let's talk about what things are like in the UK. It's something that's frowned upon, okay? A lot more than it is in the US. So here, let's take a look. In the UK, if something is frowned upon, what is it? Okay, it means to look disapprovingly upon. We often say, why are you frowning to somebody? Why that frown? It means, why are you doing that? Okay, so if you frown upon something, you are, looking at something with that expression, meaning you're not happy with it, okay? So, once again, in the UK, it's something that's frowned upon a lot more than it is in the US. So here he's also making a comparison. Moving on. When we were watching TV shows and movies growing up, it was kind of an in-joke in the UK. What was an in-joke? That everyone in the US has a therapist. Okay, so we need to know what in-joke means first of all. What is an in-joke? But what is a joke? A joke is easy, right? J-O-K-E. We often play jokes on people. You say, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm not serious. Exactly. It's that same joke, but we've got I-N hyphen right there. So an in-joke is usually, jokes or stories that people exchange with each other within a group. Okay, so it can be a group of friends. It can be a group of people within a special group, okay, or a particular group. Something that only these people understand, like an inside joke, in other words. So in the UK, people would say, Americans, they all have a therapist. Every American has a therapist. This is what people in the UK would say when they watch American TV shows and American movies. Okay? So this is just a way of emphasizing that in the US, a lot of people seek professional help. Yeah, and Mary gives an example. She says, people tend to say, my therapist says, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, Martin says exactly that. Yeah, that's right. I think it's certainly warranted in situations that call out for it. If you say that something is warranted, it means that it is supported in situations. So he's saying, yeah, especially in situations, okay, that call out for it. My belief is that too many people, way too many people, go for no real need. Go for no real need? They go where? Go to get therapy, okay? Go to get help. Go to seek advice. Go to get professional help for no real reason. He's saying they don't have to go, but they just go. All right? Right, it's quite expensive. Of course, it can cost you a lot of money. Okay, therapy can cost a fortune. So it's quite expensive, so that can be a determining factor in whether someone has access to it or not. Okay, so she points out that getting therapy can be expensive. Now she says, I saw a therapist for a little while. So she saw a therapist. Here we go. You can get therapy. You can get psychological therapy. You can also see a therapist, which means to actually get therapy. Okay? You're actually going to the therapist, or you can say that you see a therapist. Now, she saw a therapist in the past, for a little while when my parents got divorced. Aha, so this is when she got therapy, or this is when she saw a therapist. Okay? And I'm really happy that I did. It was really helpful for me. So for Mary, it was very helpful. Just because you go to a professional, like a therapist, to seek help or to get help, doesn't mean that you have to be on medication. They will not always give you drugs, but the point is to have somebody to comfortably just open up to and talk about your problems with. And for Mary, it was very helpful. So it helped her out. Her therapist helped her out a lot when her parents were getting divorced when she was little. It was when I was about 14. Here we go. 15 and 16. So, yeah, it was about this time, her teens when her parents got divorced. So, it was kind of a crucial developmental stage. Okay. What is crucial, everyone? Okay. Crucial means very important. Okay. It usually involves something that is very important, critical, crucial, very important. And for children that are growing up or teenagers, yes, it is a very crucial developmental stage. That's when we grow up and mature. So that is what she is pointing out. It was a very important time of her adolescence years. And my parents were dealing with their own divorce. She's saying that her parents were also having a difficult time. They were dealing with their divorce. They were coping with their divorce. They were struggling with their problems as well. Okay? We'll be going over deal with later on as well. Means to cope with something or to struggle with something as well. So I was happy that I had someone outside. Outside meaning not family. Okay? You can say, my cousin can't be someone that's outside. Perhaps a friend could be someone that's outside, but outside meaning somebody that she doesn't really know. So she's talking about her therapist here. She was happy that she had someone outside kind of giving her some guidance. Okay, this is advice or even information on what she could possibly do, on how to build a healthy life. So her therapist gave her guidance on how to build a healthy life, how to deal with things in a healthy way. Okay, it's all about doing things the healthy way, all right? Not taking medication, but doing things other ways, perhaps in a very healthy way. Now, here we go. Martin says, yeah, that's really important. And he says, as you said, you were at a critical period. Here, instead of crucial, he uses the word critical, which also means very important. Now, Mary said crucial developmental stage when she was referring to her teenage years. Here, Martin says critical period in your life at 14, 15. Same thing. And it was a lot different for me, actually. So now he's talking about himself. He says, my parents. Martin's parents. My parents got divorced when I was 8 years old. So Martin's parents also got divorced or separated, but he was a lot younger. Mary was about 14, 15, 16, but Martin was only 8 years old, okay? And then he moves on and says, so I didn't really have that juxtaposition between how do I feel? What's going on? Okay. Juxtaposition usually is used to contrast, okay, to compare, to contrast two different things. So if we've got A and C, for example, they're very different things. Now, if we compare the two, if we contrast the two, what happens? If they're very different, the difference between the two things will be emphasized. It'll show up even more, right? That is exactly juxtaposition. So he says, I didn't really have that juxtaposition between how do I feel? What's going on? So he didn't really have, that chance, or he didn't really have the need to think about these things. So I didn't really need it at that younger age. Meaning what? Need it? Meaning therapy or help, outside help, professional help. But I think certainly, definitely, in your teens, very sensitive, very critical period of your developmental stage, it's something that is a real help, especially over medication. Here we go. Especially over medication, meaning, okay, it is another option. Okay, instead of taking medication, it is a great option. It's something that we can turn to. We're talking about seeing a therapist or getting therapy. Okay? All right, and that about does it for today's actual talk conversation. So I've taken you through the conversation between the two, Martin and Mary. Let's take a listen to it one more time.
When I was teaching in Korea, I noticed a big difference between the stigma of mental health and therapy or even ADD medication here compared to America. I feel like a lot of children in America are seeing therapists or some sort of counselors. Divorce rate is much higher in America.
Yeah.
So the family structure kind of falling apart can create a need for therapy. Have you ever been to therapy?
I haven't ever been. And I think in the UK it's something that's frowned upon a lot more than it is in the US. You know, we're watching TV shows and movies growing up. It was kind of an in-joke in the UK that everyone in the US has a therapist.
My therapist says.
Exactly that, yeah. I think it's certainly warranted right, in situations that call out for it.
Yeah.
I mean, my belief is that too many people go for no real need, but I think if there's a situation that
I mean, it's
it.
quite expensive. So that can be a determining factor in whether someone has access to it or not. I saw a therapist for a little while when my parents got divorced.
Okay.
And I'm really happy that I did. It was really helpful for me. It was when I was about 14, 15, and 16.
Wow.
So it was kind of a crucial developmental stage.
Definitely, yeah.
And my parents were dealing with their own divorce. So I was happy that I had someone outside kind of giving me some guidance on how to build a healthy life, how to deal with things in a healthy way.
Yeah, that's really important. As you said, you're a really critical period in your life at 14, 15, trying to be comfortable with yourself. It was a lot different for me, actually. My parents got divorced when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
So I didn't really have that juxtaposition between how do I feel and what's going on. So I didn't really need it at that younger age, but I think certainly in your teens, it's something that is a real help.
Right.
Especially over medication.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for actual expressions. Are you ready? Okay, then let's take a look at some vocab words first. The first word we have for you is stigma. Stigma is quite easy. As we see, the stress goes on the first syllable, so it's stigma, stigma. Now, if something is a stigma or there is a stigma, we usually mean that it is a disgrace. Okay? Shame is a good synonym as well. All right. People say it's a no-no. It's considered to be bad, never good. Okay? What about warrant? Warrant. Warrant is tricky, could be tricky to pronounce. It's not warrant, it's warrant. Warrant. One more time. Warrant means to support. And some other synonyms are justify, uphold, validate even. Okay? What about crucial? Crucial. Here we go. It's crucial. Crucial. Central, compelling, but crucial basically means that it is very critical. It's very important. Okay? Important, critical, crucial. Remember those three vocab words. What about guidance? Here we go. We can get guidance from someone. Some synonyms are direction, teaching, even supervision. Usually we can get guidance. We're talking about information or even advice that's aimed at resolving a problem, for example. That's guidance. And juxtaposition. It's a long word, so here we go. Let's practice how to pronounce it. Juxtaposition. 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 Now, when do we use the word juxtaposition? Usually when we're contrasting two things. When we put two things side by side, especially to compare them, to see the differences. Because usually when you put things next to each other and compare them, the differences will be emphasized. It'll pop up, right? Stand out even more. So here are some synonyms for juxtaposition. Okay, let's move on to our patterns for today. To frown upon means to look disapprovingly upon. Okay, remember, if you can't remember the meaning of frown upon, frown. It means what? Which facial expression? No, it means So, look disapprovingly upon means to frown upon. My mom frowns upon being wasteful when eating meals. One more time. My mom frowns upon being wasteful when eating meals. So is she happy about this? No. She's not happy about being wasteful when eating meals. Throwing away food. Okay? All right, moving on to our next one. In-joke or an inside joke. It's a joke, usually something that is shared between people within a group. So only these people in that group would understand that joke. In-joke or an inside joke. Why does Jake always act like he knows all of our in-jokes? Do you get it? Okay. So this person is saying this is a joke, okay, that we share only between people in our group, but he's not in our group. Why does he always act like he knows everything? Once more time. Why does Jake always act like he knows all of our in-jokes? Okay, so make use of in-jokes, everyone. Well, that about does it for today's actual expressions, everyone. Practice them more on your own.